everyone. Welcome back to A Bit of Anime with Jackie
and Joe Paz.
So this week we're taking a step back, kind of revisiting something that we watched a couple months ago, and that is Dr. Stone Season 1.
Yeah, Dr. Stone was something that just kind of caught us by surprise. I personally, I saw the first
surprise. I'm just saying.
Fine, fair, but I mean, I got into it and I saw the first episode, and I think it had such a strong start. Like the only other anime that I feel like kind of did that for me was actually JoJo's, where just like the first episode just gets you ready for I want more.
Yeah. So when we started watching Dr. Stone, we were watching it when it came out. So we were watching, I think it was the new season of My Hero, and we were also watching Shield Hero at the same time. So it was we're pretty much kind of comparing those three. And Dr. Stone, definitely for us, I loved how fresh it felt. It just felt really fresh, very interesting premise. And since we were watching My Hero Academia at the same time, we were kind of comparing Senku's character to Deku from My Hero Academia, because they're both characters that rely a lot on their wits, right? And that's a whole big theme in Dr. Stone, where, they literally, in Dr. Stone, we have the parallel of, literally brain versus brawn with Tsukasa and Senku.
Okay, but that's where I have to, say that the show just goes above and beyond, because it's that's not entirely true. Because Tsukasa is already shown to be extremely smart in his own, realm. It's yes, he is not as smart as Senku.
Of course, I'm talking in, the simple, the simplicity, simple sense of the word. Yes, Tsukasa is extremely intelligent, and he is very, literally, physically
I guess
powerful.
we're just going straight into it. Because the thing is that Tsukasa is such an interesting character, because he himself is not entirely wrong in what he's going. He reminds me of a light Yagami sort of thing.
Yeah, he's a deuteragonist.
Right, he's not a villain. He wants good things to happen. He's just willing to go to extremes to be able to get them to happen that way.
Those are always my favorite characters.
Right, that's what I'm saying. He's a great and understandable villain, per se, for lack of a better term.
Okay, so let's talk about characters. So we started already talking about characters. So what's your favorite characters?
Things
like that.
It's hard not to say. I feel it's the same thing as you could say Naruto's not your favorite character. But if you're going into Naruto, you have to at least kind of Naruto, you do.
He was so annoying at first.
Senku is just the glue that holds everything together. He literally is, and he's I think the best character that's there. He's written amazingly. And just the writing of the show in general is great, but Senku himself, it's the determination, the willingness to just be able to put himself and expose himself to anything, and be not afraid of failure. So many times it's again, as humans, we're afraid of failing, and we're afraid of being embarrassed or whatever it is, and the show puts it out there immediately, because it's hey, this is science. Failure is part of the process. And so I just think he's such an interesting character based off that simple premise of he's a scientist. He's going to fail, but he's determined to be able to succeed and to use everything that he's learned so far to be able to find solutions, So
for me, as far as characters go, I think when it comes to characterization, my favorite part of pretty much, I want to say, the whole season were the opening episodes. For me, those were the most memorable, because I loved Taiju off the bat.
Yes.
He was just such a lovable, very loyal friend, not smart at all, but just a really good friend. He just had Senku's back, man, and he was just just honest and sincere about his love for Yuzuriha. She was also a really nice character, just very nice and just helpful, just kind,
Right.
Senku, and I loved the whole friendship dynamic between the two of them. Two of them are very different, but they complement each other really well.
Right, exactly. That's what I was going to say, that they just, the two of them together bring the brain and the brawn that
and
match
even
Tsukasa,
even the whole time that Senku was asleep and dormant. Like he was like thinking like, okay, like strategizing, and he was like still thinking about his friend Taiju. And then when again like Tsukasa was like first introduced too, I was like, man, this guy's a really cool character. And I had already kind of figured, I was like, dude, like this guy, I know something about him doesn't seem right. I loved like how like again like his whole premise of like, oh, you know, like adults like have been like literally destroying like the world for like centuries. Like we have the chance to like rewrite history. And,
right.
And then that whole dynamic, like again, he's not necessarily wrong. The whole morality like dilemma that they were talking about, like I just love the dynamic between those four characters. They were solid from the beginning. Super good foundation for like the rest of the show.
Right. I mean, to piggyback on that, and no pun intended, because some of you may know where I'm going with this, and then you'll figure out that pun. It'll hit you later, but it's not intended. The interesting thing is that it's like this story has been done before. Like at least the nuts and bolts of it has been done before, where like if a society is left to its own devices, it'll naturally separate and it'll naturally become a power struggle. That's kind of the whole like the Lord of the Flies, which is where I'm getting at with the pig and whatever. I didn't, that not intentional, but Lord of the Flies does the same concept. But this just does it on a whole other scale. Like it's just like, I don't know. It's fresh the way it's brought about. And speaking of fresh, let's get one thing straight. The soundtrack is fucking funky fresh. Like it is so goddamn
yeah,
cool.
the soundtrack is very interesting.
It's like hip hop meets jazz meets like R&B. Like it's such an interesting sound.
Meets like tribal. It's like such an interesting
right, exactly.
fusion.
Yeah, so it's just like the mix of all those different styles and stuff is really, really neat. I at first I remember specifically telling Jackie, I was like, I'm not a fan of the soundtrack. It's like, it's weird. It's like kind of out there and stuff. But as I started seeing the way that they kind of incorporate all the elements of like, you know, modern tech versus like, you know, tribal instincts versus like, you know, especially when we meet fucking Chrome, who I also think is a great character. But when we meet Chrome and you see like that he's been like, he's basically the first scientist in this society, of like, you know, people growing in this like Stone Age, you know, that's when it really hit me that I was like, this is a genius balance of like music to complement this series that is very like techie, but like futuristic, but also obviously set in the Stone Age. So it's like, it's just a weird mixture. So it kind of complements that.
Yeah. So I'm going back to the characters because you started talking about Chrome. I loved just the idea of what Chrome is, where again, he's like the first scientist in this age. And just like the curiosity that he has, like getting to see his point of view of like, hey, I've been living in this like society, and seeing obviously like, yes, the kingdom of science that they have there, the village, like they're already so much more advanced than like we were, because they had, you know, like they talk about it at the end of the season, like all of the different like the writings and like the stories that they were like, yes, the recordings that were passed down and stuff like that. So like they have so much like knowledge already, and they were already set up like for success. So I think like Chrome's point of view and like just him as a character and like the dynamic between like him and Senku is like really cool to see. Like Senku has somebody that like he can see as like, oh, like equal almost, like, which is cool. And then for the other characters, bro, I love Kohaku. She's probably my favorite female. You know, I'm all about like powerful females and stuff. Like Yuzuriha is like nice and sweet, but I'm not into like that female character dynamic. It's cute, yeah, but like I'm not like that. So like, you know, she was like awesome from the start, and she's like literally like the most powerful chick in like her village besides like what Magma, and then even then she can still kick his ass, and I think that that's like fantastic. But she's also very level-headed. She's not like, you know, she's not like a big beefy character. She's just like agile and smart, and she's just like, you know, she's good at what she does, and I like that.
Right. I feel like the show purposely, like, I don't know if it's intentional, probably is based off it, but I feel like the show is purposely puts different intelligences out there.
Yeah.
Because she's obviously intelligent in like a kinesthetic way where she's very agile. She's very like, just good, quick-witted. You know, she's able to kind of think on her feet and stuff or whatever. Obviously, you have the Chrome and the Senkus that are like specifically, very science and very like academically like kind of intelligent. But then you also have Asagiri, who's just very good at reading people and understanding people's emotions and like, it's a very different kind of intelligence. As opposed to like again Senku and Taiju and all the other people that so every character has their own like intelligence that they like specialize in.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the things that I love about the character. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I love that all the characters are super three-dimensional, but also super simple in their design. So they have clear flaws, and their clear flaws help bring complementary stuff about each other. I
think all of the characters that have like been introduced for the most part that are like in the foreground, quote unquote, like obviously like the main characters, then the B characters and the C characters and all that. Like I remember all of them. Like they're all very memorable. They all have like distinct personalities and like things that they're into. Like freaking Kinro and Kinro, the guards, they were like super funny and they're polar opposites. And then like, oh my god, I totally forgot the name of like the old guy, the old man.
Chief? Oh no, the
swole dude that's
the
like
blacksmith.
The blacksmith. Yeah, man, that guy was so cool. I loved him, and I loved.
He was one of my favorites that got added to the kingdom.
Again, bro. Like, I loved like the episodes that I'm like, is he gonna like actually betray them? Oh no, he's joining. Oh, like he always kept me on my toes, and like he was just like such an interesting character. Like all the characters are so interesting. But you like him
because Jackie has an obsession for Coke. So
I mean, yes, I do. I do drink a lot of Coke. Like, guys, I'm not very healthy about that. But no, that's not what I like. You would do the same thing. You would. But I did. I laughed so hard. Like there, I was like, bro, I would totally do that if I was stuck there. I was like, I thought to myself, I was like, man, if I was there, like, what's something that I would like need, bro? Like a good Coke. I felt that. I could taste like the Coke that he was drinking. And so let's talk about that with plot-wise. Because like there's literally been people on YouTube that have like made like
the Senku Cola. Yeah, right. I want to try making
it. And so what I love about the show and what a lot of people like about the show is that like plot-wise everything is rooted on like actual science, which is fantastic. And it does it in like a fun and engaging way. And then there's still things like outlandish, like how did you go?
Some fantasy and whatnot.
Yeah, like a lot of people like also get kind of upset at that too. Like I've seen like a lot of people will rate the show like, oh yeah, it's like a solid like 7 out of 10 because it's like, yes, it's like good, but it does like drag somewhere in the middle. Like the beginning is really good and like the ending of the season is really good, but there's parts of it that drag in the middle. And yeah, I can kind of see that. I don't really feel like it drags too much though. I feel like it does like develop a lot of the characters and it introduces a lot. And just how the kingdom of science or that village, how it like works and like everything. Do I feel like it does drag a little bit? Yes, I feel like it does. Just the hair, it really not like anything like too crazy where I feel like, man, I don't really feel like keep like continuing watching.
I never felt a drag per se. I mean, like here's the thing. This is the one show that I feel like I've seen montages. And I'm very interested in all of the like images that you actually see in the montage because just so much happens in such a small amount of time. Like in the episode, it's like, okay, cool. We're going to develop electricity. And then here's a montage while, again, kick-ass music is playing. And you see like everyone like building all the stuff. And it's like, holy crap, like 2 days ago, we were using leaves and twigs and stuff. And now we have freaking, power generators and stuff, and we have cell phones. Like, that's nuts.
Well, that's one of the things that people like argue. Like, oh, like, man, the things that I don't like about the show is like, dude, seriously, we're gonna go for like cell phones before we use Morse code. Like, don't you think like there's things that are more priority than like cell phones? Like you can still, like your goal is communication, right? You can do that with Morse and that would be easier to get. Or if you were able to do the water wheel, then how come you're not able to do like bellows?
Look,
and things like that. There's like a bunch of different, it's like why, like yes, theoretically.
There's no one correct way of doing it. And we don't know if Senku is correct.
There are, but like a lot of people that are like actual like scientists that have been like studying the show, they have gripes with that where they're like, dude, but again, you Senku could have done
also a high school student. Well, granted, they're all high school students. They're just nuts.
But it has nothing to do with like being high school student. It's literally, it's like you could get the same, if not better results if you did it this way instead of like jumping from here to cell phones, or how you use your labor. You're doing like manual labor when it's like, bro, you already invented a water wheel. You can do other things with water wheel. Why not use the wheel to do like the wiring instead of doing it like with manual labor? That's one of the things that people argue.
Sure.
I don't know enough about that. Neither of us do. But the people that are like engineers and actual scientists watching this show, they have gripes with things like that. They're like, yes, it is scientifically accurate, all of the processes, but this is not at all the most effective way to get to where you want to get to.
That play like Phoenix Wright and that are lawyers and are like, this isn't how a trial would be taken, but it's
of course. So
you have to have a certain suspension of this.
I don't really have a problem with it. I think that what is there, I think it's fun, and I do like the outlandishness of it. Like, oh man, we're going from this to cell phones. Like, I'm like, oh, it always keeps me on my toes because like I never know what to expect next.
Right.
Which is cool.
And even then,
I've read further, like in the manga, to see like what's next, and it's like, whoa, like there's some really, really cool stuff for sure. So I'm definitely excited for season 2.
But
also.
that brings my entire like point to fruition, though. What I feel the series did so strongly is like I said, other than JoJo, I haven't seen recently an anime that just had a blank slate. You literally could have gone anywhere with the plot. After that first episode, like it could have gone anywhere. The second episode, they introduced Tsukasa, and then you're like, okay, now I know the conflict.
Well, it was
I know exactly,
episode, but whatever.
It was like fine. It was the third episode or something like that, but it was very early on. The point is that you introduce the conflict, and you're like, okay, now I see the conflict. How are you going to develop the conflict? Like everything is just so open ended that it's like, the sky's the limit, and literally no pun intended, but we do go to the sky, when we see like the freaking the spaceship, and like they fall down and all that stuff
with like his dad. I loved all
that they were gone while all of this stuff happened to the earth and whatnot. So it's like literally the sky's the limit.
I will say, like, I really like, just like when I think of the progression of everything, the first episode itself was super strong.
Yes.
They like from the get-go, I was like, oh, there's this mystery of like, where did this green light come from? Why did this happen to all of these people? Like, what's going on? Like you're already interested from the get-go. Like, why did this happen? And then like the characters that are introduced in that first episode, you're like, man, like I care about that. Like there's enough like that happens that it's like, I have some kind of attachment to this. Then, when Yuzuriha and Taiju and Senku separate, and they're like, okay, you guys are gonna go spy for the other kingdom. I'm gonna go build the kingdom of science, and I'm gonna like do this shit, whatever. And they separate. I'm like, oh man, like I feel it already. It was such a short time, but I'm here. I'm with these characters, and then people say it slows down when he gets to the village and stuff. I don't really see it that way. I see it as like he's building his forces. He's getting these people on his side.
It takes time to do all of that.
And it takes time to like do all these inventions and to get him to a certain point that he needs to get to. So it's like, I don't think it slows down. I think it's part of the character development, the world building that they're doing. I don't feel like it's really not slow per se. I guess if you don't have that attachment to the world and the characters, then yes, I can see how you would feel that way. But I understand why they're doing it. And that's why I also feel like, again, the middle stuff, there are some parts that maybe drag on, maybe a little bit, but not a whole lot. There's some episodes where like, it's like, there's like 10 different things that happen in there.
But I wouldn't say that there's anything that's like, oh, this could have been omitted. Like all of it was still I feel like
purposeful. All of it was necessary.
Like even the ramen, like everything was necessary to get to that ultimate end goal.
And again, like the ending and just seeing like, man, this is how this village was created, and like here's this legacy essentially, and like your father set you up for success, like. So that like MVP. You could succeed like without him, bro. Oh my God, like he wouldn't have been able to do this. This was because of what his dad did. And like, bro, like I don't know. That's such a good setup. Absolutely perfect. I can't wait for season 2. I don't know. I don't even know how I would rate it. I don't like giving like the number ratings.
I think I would easily put it up there at like a 9.5.
I would not rate it. I wouldn't say 9.5. I would probably say like an 8.5 or 9 for me so far. The manga though, season 2, where it's going. Oh my god! Like, wow, you're. So you gotta get ready, bro. Can't wait for it to come out.
If you haven't seen Dr. Stone,
check it out.
Yeah, definitely give it a chance. Check it out because it's really strong. See if you think what I thought, that it's just like the first few episodes super super strong, and then it's just like
it's not like your regular shonen. It's different. Right. It's not like here's like this like crazy fight. Like it's not like that. Like
there's no power levels and stuff. It's like that's not what it's about.
It's for the intellectual. There's comedic stuff in there. I don't know. It's cool. It's fun. Science is fun.
Science is fun.
All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning into A Bit of Anime. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you guys want us to watch. What do you guys want us to talk about? And all right, signing out. See you next week.
Take care.
支えてくれる人たちに日頃の思いを込めたラプソディアプリシエーションな気持ちを届け